Hey guys, now Christmas is one of my absolute favorite holidays. I love the holiday season. I love Christmas time, everything about it. So I figured since this is my first official sort of YouTube timing of being on YouTube and being able to talk about movies, why not list out my top 10 favorite holiday films? Now as a quick disclaimer, this will be films centered around the holidays. They're not going to be like action films or anything like that have holidays as a backdrop. For example, like I'm not going to be listing Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, or anything else, Shane Black. I'm just going to keep all those out of this list for now. I may do that another time, but I'm going to strictly stick to my favorite top 10 holiday movies. Now I love all of these films, so they are in no particular order whatsoever. I did not rank them 1 to 10 or 10 to 1, vice versa. So these are just strictly my favorite holiday films. I'm not going to categorize them as number 1 to number 10. I just don't feel like that's really doing it justice, especially since some of these have such great moments. There are the classics, and I will say probably words like classics, favorites, funny, hilarious, anything iconic, anything like that, I'll probably say 1,000 times in this video. So I'm going to try my best to limit that because you probably don't want to hear that over and over. So with that, let's get right into the list. My first pick is going to be The Santa Claus, which stars Tim Allen. Now this one was really great because it did something interesting with Santa Claus in that he sort of gets killed and this random guy has to take his spot and be Santa Claus. And in the process, he becomes Santa Claus. He gets like the belly, the beard, white hair, everything. Like it was just such an interesting take on this story. And it just makes it so much fun and classic and iconic. I'm going to say those words a million times. Stop it, Aaron. Stop it. So it's just such a great film to watch. It's great for kids. It's great to watch as an adult. You just feel this nostalgia when you're watching it. And it's just a fantastic movie. Up next is Fred Claus. Now this one is also interesting in the way that it's played with the story of Santa Claus and then it gave him a brother. Not only gave him a brother, but kind of like an ordinary guy, and he has this relationship issues with his family, with his brother, with how he deals with his life in general. It's, again, a weird sort of story to say out loud, but as you're watching, it's actually a lot of fun to watch. Vince Vaughn is absolutely hilarious, and he does a bunch of other Christmas movies, but I think this is probably one of his better ones, considering that his other ones are more adult themed. This one can kind of play in adult humor inside of a kid's movie. So that one, it makes it a little bit more special, at least in my eyes. Up next is Jingle All The Way. Now this one is Arnold Schwarzenegger pretty much doing nothing action. He's just running around looking for a last-minute Christmas present for his son. And it's absolutely hilarious because he's looking for this specific toy that's sold out everywhere. This is such a great story because it sort of tells the story of how, adults have to go through hell basically to get their children whatever specific toy that they want for Christmas. And you either get it early and you have it ready under the tree on Christmas Eve, or you don't and you're running around like a mad person trying to find this toy inside those crowds, which they showed perfectly, I think. It wasn't necessarily Black Friday crowds, but just the madness that people go through to try and get a toy, an electronic, no matter what it is. And it's just an interesting take, again, on that sort of everyday life that a lot of people sort of take for granted or don't really think about. And this adventure that Arnold Schwarzenegger goes on, it's a bit of a hell ride, but at the same time, it's rewarding by the end of it and how everything sort of shakes out to be. Up next on the list is Christmas Vacation. This one is absolutely one of my favorites because I love all of the vacation movies. Well, I shouldn't say all the vacation movies. They've gone kind of bad recently. But I love Christmas Vacation, Vegas Vacation, and European Vacation, and of course the first Vacation. But this was the Christmas one, so you really get to see that chaotic family sort of get together and really sort of kill themselves. Like Clark Griswold kills himself to try and make a great Christmas, not only for himself, but for his family. It also shows the madness of having to be around your family around the Christmas time, and it's just insanity, and it makes you feel like you're part of this family, because sometimes everyone has their insane family, and this one you really get to be a part of theirs and see someone else's insanity from the outside in, or inside out, I guess. But it's just so interesting to see that dynamic, and the comedy is absolutely hilarious, as is in all the vacation movies, and it just has to make the list. Up next, we have Surviving Christmas. Now, this one stars Ben Affleck and James Gandolfini. This one is probably one of the least favorited or liked, I guess, type of Christmas movies. But I remember when I saw this movie in the theater, I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and me and my mom went way out to a theater. It was like across town. We probably drove 45 minutes, if not more, to go and see this movie because that was the only place that was showing this movie. And when I saw the trailers for it, I knew I had to see it. So, of course, this one is absolutely hilarious. Just in the trailer alone, I remember specifically the moment that made me want to see this movie was when Ben Affleck is coming downstairs and it squeaks and he sort of has this childlike moment and he's like, that's the squeaky stair. That's the moment that really sold me to go see this movie. That's not the greatest moment of the movie, but it's absolutely one of the funniest things. And again, this is another one of those movies that shows the family and how they interact with each other on Christmas, all the problems that sort of you kind of try and bury, but at the same time are exposed that you don't want to be exposed. And it's just one of those films that not necessarily makes you feel good, but it lets you know that maybe your family's drama during the holidays isn't the worst. Other people's may have some worse drama, but it's definitely funny, and it definitely has a lot of great moments, including James Gandolfini, who, rest in peace, sir, was an amazing actor. And, of course, Ben Affleck pre-Batman, and he was just having a lot of fun with this movie, and that's, I think, why I liked it a lot. He just loves Christmas, and I love Christmas, and it just all works out for me. Up next, we have Home Alone. Now, Home Alone is another one of those classics. Macaulay Culkin completely made this role his. It belongs to him. It doesn't belong to anyone else. They've tried to make other Home Alones without him, but hands down, Macaulay Culkin is the Kevin McAllister. It's a kid home alone on Christmas who gets left there accidentally. His family's out on vacation, and he has to defend the house from some robbers. And really, I don't need to tell you much more than that. I mean, it's such a great movie, and it's great to watch when you're a kid. It's great to watch when you're an adult. When you watch it as a kid, you're like, yeah, this kid is a badass. Like, I wish I was home alone so I could, defend the house, shoot army men off the ledge or whatever. Just do all this crazy stuff. And when you watch it as an adult, you sort of get that nostalgia of not only being when you watched it as a kid, but that sort of inner panic if you were the parent and had to run home and try and get your child safe and make sure that they were okay. And the fact that you forgot your child and went on vacation anyway. There's just a lot of factors to it, but it still makes it a great film and it still holds up very well today. It just looks a little bit more dated than one would hope, but it's still a great film to watch around the holidays. And speaking of Home Alone, we have to add Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Again, absolutely phenomenal, but instead it added a nice little twist to the first one where he gets to go on vacation with his family. A lot of hecticness is still happening, but he gets on a plane that goes to New York instead of the plane that's going to Miami with his family. And he's lost in New York. He gets to stay at like this super fancy hotel because he has his dad's credit cards. There's a bunch of other chaotic stuff that happens. We get the same villains from the last time. A little bit different stuff that's happening. But it's still a great story. You wanted to be that kid. You wanted to have the cheese pizza and the limo. You wanted to go play in the toy store. You wanted to be in like this massive hotel room with this bed all to yourself, a cabinet full of candy, absolutely everything. You wanted to be this kid. And it works perfectly in the first film, and I think it definitely works perfectly in the second film. Up next, we have Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, this is the live-action version of the cartoon. This one stars Jim Carrey as the Grinch. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This guy who doesn't like Christmas and living in a world where it's all about Christmas. And it's based, of course, on the short sort of cartoon that came out way back in the day. Again, another phenomenal watch, including the Charlie Brown one. But I'm not talking about short cartoons, I'm talking about movies. This was the live action one, and I think it perfectly captured exactly what the short cartoon tried to accomplish way back in the day and expanded upon it. It had a lot of elements that were not in that original cartoon, and it definitely made you feel you agreed with the Grinch and you feel like the Grinch at certain points because you completely are on his side, but at the same time you enjoy the Christmas atmosphere, everything about it. It's just a great film to watch, not to mention the fact that the amount of makeup that Jim Carrey was in, as well as those yellow contacts that he has in the film. He actually had a drill sergeant yell at him constantly on set because he was in so much pain with these contacts, and it really got him through it, and it's just amazing that he was even able to do it the entire filming of the movie. But it's still an absolutely great movie to watch. The setting is beautiful. I love the whole setup. I think it's directed by Ron Howard, actually. But it's a great film, and I highly recommend watching it. Now for the next pick, this one is a little bit more special to me just because it's on every single year. Not only is it on every single year, but it runs for 24 hours between like 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and runs till like 8 p.m. on Christmas Day. I absolutely love this movie, and if you know what I'm talking about, you already know what the movie is already. It's A Christmas Story. Now this film was shot, I think, in the 80s, or came out in the 80s, but it was sort of set in the 50s. There's just something very nostalgic about this entire movie. It's so much fun, so quotable. Absolutely probably one of the most quotable Christmas movies I think I've ever seen. It's just iconic movie. I have so much fun whenever I watch this movie. I quote it beginning to end. I leave it on my TV Christmas Eve starting at 8 until all day Christmas Day. I absolutely love this movie. The only time I have the TV off during when that's running is when we're opening Christmas presents. And that is the only thing that will break my Christmas Story TV marathon. But I absolutely love this movie. I can't say enough good things about it. It's just such a classic movie. It's always going to be on my top Christmas list. No matter how many great Christmas movies comes out, I think A Christmas Story is always going to be cemented in the top must-watches of every year. It's just one of the most great, it's just a great movie, and it's just a great Christmas movie. This kid Ralphie goes through all these experiences centered around Christmas. He wants this Red Ryder BB gun so bad, and you feel like you're a kid again when you watch this movie, and I think that's why I love it so much. It just brings back this nostalgia and this love for Christmas and the same sort of feeling of being a kid and wanting something so bad, and it just is such a great film. I don't really know what else to say about it. I love this movie, so it definitely has to go on the list. And finally, last but not least, the final Christmas movie that has to be a must-watch every single year, again, is another very quotable one, and that is Elf. This one stars Will Ferrell. I believe it was also directed by Jon Favreau, and he is just this kid that gets lost in sort of Santa's bag one time, and he gets taken back to the North Pole, and he's raised by elves. He grows up around elves until he becomes an adult and goes back to the real world where he sort of tries to meet his father. It's just such a great film. It's, again, one of the most quotable films. I love this movie just based on how many quotes there are with Mr. Norwal, with Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color, to when he's saying Francisco. There's so many great things about this movie, and I have to watch it every holiday season. Now, the only downside I have about this movie is when it gets towards the end and they really focus on this sort of Santa aspect and how it relates to his dad have to sing and all this other stuff. But it's, other than that, it's one of the greatest Christmas movies I think of all time. Again, such an original sort of story about a guy who gets, a kid, a baby, who gets trapped in Santa's bag, gets taken to the North Pole, raised by elves, and then has to go back to the real world. I mean, it's such a unique story, and it's so funny, quotable. It's a great little adventure story of him being in New York, trying to figure out, really discover things for the first time, kind of like a baby. And it's really hilarious to watch, especially with Will Ferrell, such a big guy in this ridiculous costume. Again, absolutely an amazing movie to watch, and you have to watch it every single year. So guys, that pretty much wraps up all of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, at least up to this point. Hopefully there are going to be some more. I may do a video, maybe next year, I'm not entirely sure, of my favorite Christmas movies that sort of are, Christmas are the backdrop, but my favorite non-traditional Christmas movies. I may do that next year. I may do it this year if I have time. We'll see how it goes. But let me know if I missed anything or what your favorite holiday movie, Christmas movie, whatever you want to call it, is down in the comment section down below. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great Christmas, holiday season, New Year, in case I don't have any videos out by then. But I hope you guys have a great holiday season, and I will catch you guys in the next one.